Have you ever wanted to do something great, but your mind whispered, you can't? Have you ever started a dream only to stop halfway because fear said, you're not ready? Do you know what it feels like to fight your own thoughts every single day? You're not lazy. You're not weak. You're just human, standing between doubt and belief. But what if your mind could become your greatest strength? If you've ever been your own biggest critic, this story is for you. Once upon a time, there was a young man named John, 29 years old, who lived by the sea. He worked as a fisherman, just like his father and grandfather. Every morning before dawn, he pushed his small wooden boat into the waves and cast his net. But John's dream was not only to catch fish. He wanted to build something greater, a boat of his own design, faster, stronger, safer for others. He often sat at night sketching plans by candlelight, dreaming of one day sailing beyond the horizon. Yet, each time he finished a drawing, he'd shake his head and say softly, "Who am I to build something like this?" He compared himself to others, the confident traders, the rich captains, the loud men at the docks. While others sold their fish proudly, John avoided crowds, doubting every word he spoke. People in the town said, "John is kind, but he dreams too much." Even his best friend Peter laughed and said, "Dreams don't float, John, boats do." And slowly, those words became a chain around his net. Days turned to months. John kept fishing, but the spark inside him faded. He began to feel small, invisible. Then one night, a great storm hit the coast. Waves slammed against the boats. Fishermen ran to tie their nets, but one old boat broke loose and drifted into the dark sea. John saw it. It was Peter's boat. Without thinking, he grabbed a rope and ran into the water. The wind roared. Rain hit his face like stones, but somehow he pulled the boat back to shore. When the storm ended, everyone gathered around him. Peter hugged him and said, "You saved my life, John." An older man who had watched silently stepped forward. He was Mr. Harris, a retired shipbuilder known for his wisdom. He looked at John's shaking hands and said, "You think you're weak, but these hands just fought the sea." John looked down, speechless. Mr. Harris smiled gently. "Your problem isn't strength, it's belief. You remind me of a rope I once made, strong fibers, twisted tight, but one weak thread always said I might break, until it did." John frowned. "What do you mean?" "The mind is that weak thread," Harris replied. "If you keep feeding it doubt, it breaks the whole rope. Feed it belief, and you can pull the ocean itself." He handed John a small piece of rope from his pocket. "Keep this," he said. "Every time you doubt yourself, hold it tight, and remember what it feels like to fight the storm." John took the rope. It felt rough, but warm. He didn't know it then, but this moment would change everything. The next day, John sat on the beach holding the rope. He thought of the storm. He thought of his shaking hands. And for the first time, he said aloud, "I'm not weak." He picked up his old drawings and began again. The first sketches looked terrible. He wanted to stop. But then he touched the rope and whispered, "If I could fight the sea, I can fight my doubt." He began working every evening after fishing. He collected driftwood, metal scraps, and old tools. His fingers bled. His back ached. But he kept going. Days passed. Weeks turned into months. The people of the town laughed when they saw him working at night. "John's building a dream," they joked. But John didn't listen anymore. He heard something louder, his own belief. One evening, as the sun set in gold, he stood before his creation. A small boat, built with his own hands, steady and shining under the sky. He called it the Believer. When he pushed it into the water, his heart raced. Would I? The boat rocked gently, then steadied. It floated, strong and sure. Tears filled his eyes. He looked toward the horizon and whispered, "For the first time, I trust myself." Months later, John's boat became known across the coast. Fishermen asked him for help building their own. Even Peter came to him and said, smiling, "You were right. Dreams do float." John opened a small workshop near the shore. On the wall, he hung the piece of rope Mr. Harris gave him. Below it, he carved the words, "Your mind can drown you or sail you forward." Mr. Harris visited one last time. He looked at the boats lined up on the beach and said, "You see, John, you were never fighting the ocean. You were fighting yourself." John smiled quietly. "I know," he said, "but now I sail with belief." And every morning when he saw the sea, he no longer felt fear. He felt freedom, because he had learned the greatest truth of all. When you believe you can, your mind gives you power you never knew existed. Dear friend, you have oceans inside you too. Sometimes they are calm, sometimes they are stormy. But remember, you are the captain of your mind. Every one of us holds a rope inside, made of thoughts, habits, and belief. If you feed your doubt, that rope breaks. If you feed your faith, it becomes unbreakable. Start small. Speak kindly to yourself. Do one brave thing today, even if your hands shake. Because the moment you trust your own strength, the storm begins to calm. You are stronger than you think, and your mind is the sail that carries your life forward. If this story touched your heart, my friend, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear that belief changes everything. Subscribe to EchoTales, where stories help you grow in English and in courage. We'll be here every week with a new story to strengthen your mind and your heart. Thank you for listening. Keep sailing, keep believing, and remember, your journey begins the moment you stop doubting yourself. See you in the next story.